All right. So this session, we're going to be talking about maps. And I want to talk about out-of-the-box mapping in Web Intelligence, and then what we can do with some add-on components like Need for Viz. And so it's kind of going to be half and half. And I'll show you some things, hopefully, that you may not have thought about doing before with your maps. So to get started, I'm just going to show the basic maps with data from a universe. So in BusinessObjects 4.2, I believe it was brought in Service Pack 3. Geomapping 4.2 was delivered with a location database. So it ships with it. And the cool thing about that is that you don't have to have all the mapping or the latitude and longitude for your data to be in there to create some very cool maps. So I'm just going to bring in customer state in this case, and from my measures, I'll grab number of orders and run that query. Okay, so I want to turn this data, display it on a map, and I'll add some quick formatting on here to my numbers. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to be able to use the new geomaps, or new-ish, I should say, they've been out for a long time. They've been out for a while. So let's right click on here, and this is what we're looking for, edit as geography. And I'll select by name. And then what you are presented with here is this dialog box. And it's asking, what is the level of this data? And we're not at the country level here, we're at a region or a state level. And when I select that, it examines the data and it says, all right, there were 29, 27 of them they were able to figure out, 2 they were not sure about, and there's none that are missing. So for that, I can resolve these 2 that it was unsure about, because with Florida, there's also a Florida in Uruguay, but we want the one in the US, and in Georgia as well. We don't mean this country of Georgia. All right, so now everything is resolved. I'll say okay. All right, and so now our geo dimension is ready to go. So all I have to do now is turn this table into one of the geo charts that are available. So I'm going to select the turn into and more transformations. And then under the geographic options here, we have the geo choropleth, geo bubble chart, and the geo pie chart. I'm going to start off with the geo choropleth, which is also one of my favorites as well. So this is what it looks like with that data out of the box. And if I hover over, you see it's showing the state name, California, and the number of orders. And if I move over here to Iowa, it's showing their orders, Wisconsin, Illinois, etc. Okay. So that's out of the box. Let me just edit, just to do full disclosure. I want to show some of the issues if I wanted to do another chart with at the city level. So if I right click on here and edit as geography and by name, and tell it we're at the city level. Now it's going to take longer because there's more cities that it's having to examine. Still pretty fast. It went through, there's 1,336 cities in this data set. And you'll see of those, it figured out 486. There's 600 unresolved and 250 that it really just wasn't sure about at all. So you could see that it would take an effort to go through here and choose the correct Aberdeen, because there's, so many repeated cities across the states and across the countries. So you would have to set this up. However, once that was set up, it's quick to use it. You could also then perhaps save it as a shared element and reuse it in other reports without having to go through those steps again. So one time you had it done, you could reuse that over and over again. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. All right, so different things that we can do with our charts now. I want to show a couple examples. I'm going to bring in some more data. So I'll edit this query and add a new query from universe. It's a different universe this time. And I'll bring in country and city. And then I'm going to bring in some other details as well. Client information and revenue. All right.
Roxanne, quick question. Does the GeoMap recognize the counties within any state?
There are, I noticed in there, when we edit this, I believe that's what you see the subregion. I believe that's what the county information would be.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good question. All right. So I'm going to separate my queries here. All right. And on a new report tab, I've got my data here. And what I'd like to do is set up my country and revenue here, like a summary level. And I'm not going to worry about this fitting in because I'm going to right away turn it into a chart. So I'll turn this into more transformations. And then the geographic, again, I'll use the geo. So I get this red X here because I have not used a geographic dimension for this. So let me undo that step. And I'll quickly turn this into the geographic dimension. This is at the country level, and right away it recognizes the 4 countries that we have here. All right, now we're ready. I can turn this into my geographic chart. All right, and then I'll resize this a little bit. And what I'd like to do is set this chart up to do some element linking. So the chart will be a selector in my report. I'm going to add city and revenue and add another chart over here, which I'm going to turn into a column line chart. Right now it looks kind of messy because we are listing all of them there. But I'm going to turn this on into a add element linking to this. Add element link on country and apply it to my chart here and on the table, our original table here, and click finish. So now if I click on Australia here, notice that my chart changed and my table changed as well. If I move to Canada, now both the table and the chart are showing Canadian provinces. And then if I click on the states, we see our states here. Okay. Now, the one downside of the chart element linking is that to reset you, the only option really here is to use this right click and reset. So if I want to go back up to the top level, so I show all countries again, I would have to instruct the users to right click and use that reset. So I'm going to show you another way of using the charts and incorporate that element linking again, but this time it's going to help us zoom into different parts of the country. Okay, so I'm going to add a report tab here. And I'm going to use my customer state and number of orders. Here. And then this time, what I want to do is create some regions. And so what I did ahead of time is I used the grouping function in here and created a variable, which I'm just going to steal from this. Go to my variables. Yeah, I think I'll just demo it on this report. All right. So from here, I'll take my customer state and revenue, or actually customer state and number of orders. And then I'll add this region where I grouped all the states together and put them in separate regions. Okay. I don't need to keep that on there, but I wanted to show you how they each fit into their region. I'll pull that out, and then I'm just going to show regions over here in a separate table. And if we set this up with element linking, I'll apply it to that first block. And you'll see if I click on South, it shows the southern states, Midwest, all of them. Okay. I'll reset that for now and turn this into a map now. So I'm going to turn into more transformations, and I'll choose a chart here. And this time I'm going to choose the geo bubble chart. All right, so this time it's showing the whole US, and the bubbles are representing the different more number of orders over here as compared to Colorado, which has very few. Oregon has a little more, etc. So I'm going to use my element linking here to zoom in to different areas of that. So if I click on North, you see how my chart changes now and is just showing those northern states. If I switch to Midwest, now I see just my Midwest states. So one final change here, I'm going to disable this and change the look of this little table and turn it into a horizontal chart, horizontal table, I mean. And then instead of using regions there, I'm going to call this USA. And then format this real quick. I'll increase the font, center it, change the font, make it bold, and then apply that to the cell as well. All right, so now I have something that looks like navigation that I could use in my table here. And the advantage of this is that this header cell allows me to reset without using that little reset button. So I'll enable this again. Now we're on the Midwest. I can return to all states by clicking on the header cell there. And again, showing you how I can toggle through the different regions, focus in on them, and go back to the overall. So I really like the way it will zoom into just the states that are being represented there in the size that you have specified. I like that it's still using the exact same amount of real estate and then just zooming in on the area that we're focusing in on here. So you can see that was done with just the grouping button. You could make your own groups, or of course you could have that information in your universe, available in your universe to focus in on different regions or different counties, say within your state, however you wanted to represent that data. But this is just out of the box what you can do with Web Intelligence and the geomaps. So that was cool. One other thing that I wanted to show on this, in this case, I actually have, let me show you, we're going from the country level. So if I click on the United States here, see how it went down to focus in on the US. And if I click on a state, then it focuses in on the cities there. So actually, this is really using 3 charts. So notice here, I have a country chart, a state chart, and a city chart. And I'm just using that hide formula that Alan mentioned in his presentation here. So I'm hiding based on a reference cell. The only downside that I had with this is that to get back up out of the box, you would have to use these reset, and to get back up to the country level, you would have to do that. I did also incorporate the need for viz reset because I like that better than having to use that reset up here. So if I click on Australia here, I can click on this reset button and it will take me back to the country level. I didn't take the time to go down to the city level for that, but I could have done that and then only display the one that was appropriate for that level. Okay. All right, so that's a quick little discussion on out of the box geomapping with Web Intelligence. Now I'm going to switch to a different environment here and talk about the need for viz charts. So just real quick, I'm going to let this refresh. And while it is, the need for viz has many different components. Alan spoke about several in his presentation as well. Some very cool charts, some navigation options, and some maps. So I'm going to focus in on the map discussion today. And notice how each one of these maps comes with information on how to turn it into a chart. And then it also includes the data sources for these. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. So it helps in knowing how you would want to set that up. So if I click on this first one here, this one happens to be showing France, and just lost connection there. All right, here we go. So one of the things that I love about the Need for Biz maps is that they all have this zoom out to toggle the full screen. So if I click on that, right away, I can have full screen view of this. And then just by using my mouse, I can zoom in on different areas here and drag it over just like a Google map, okay? In this case, the data is showing charging stations. And if you see down in the lower left-hand corner here, they're showing charging stations for being able to charge electric cars, electric bikes, things like that. And so the colors are showing those that are operative. The green are the operative ones. Orange is work in progress, and red is closed. So to get out of the full screen, I can hit escape. And then there's also a little X that pops down, but my Zoom screen keeps getting in the way of that. Let me show you what the data looks like for that. So this one happens to be using the latitude and longitude for setting up this map. So if you have that information, you could plug in your information here. This is showing you how you could set up the tooltip for that. Let me make this wider here. So this is showing the station name, and how many bicycles are available at that particular station. This is the station name. You can specify a color for that. This is used for the legend, work in progress, operative, or close, and then the number of stations. And they show you on here in the samples what you need to do to transform this into a chart. So I'll right click on the outer edge of this data and select turn into and more transformations. And I'll go down to, the geomaps. And I'm going to choose the Google Maps lat long. And notice how it is plugging these in and my measure in there. And I can select OK. This is the default size. I could adjust that size, and I can make all kinds of adjustments to the formatting. So if I right click on here, format the custom element, I can come in here and select extended parameters. And here's where I could change things about the legend, add some lasso options on here if I wanted, let them be able to draw on here, specify information about the bubbles here, how many decimals I want to show, so many things on here. So lots and lots of formatting options on here. And this is where we could specify the initial zoom factor. And if you wanted to hide the zoom or hide the full screen control, you could do that as well. Although it's a great option. I really like it. So that's one of the charts that they have. Let me show you some more. This one I like a lot. This is their world maps, and So on the second tab of all their samples, they show the codes that are used here, and you could use these codes and plug in your data for that as well and turn them into charts. Okay. So this chart, I'm going to go into full screen mode. So this is a world map, and I'll go into full screen and show that I can click on the US here, and it has this mini chart that pops up that is showing additional measure information, measure and dimension. And then I can show Japan. And not only that, but I could show more than one at a time if I wanted to compare. So here's Portugal, and I can compare that to Japan and continue my analysis if I wanted to, continuing showing them on here. Okay, and I'll close those. And it's hiding my X, there. Oh, I'm just going to hit escape. All right. So I wanted to show you how we could do that with some similar idea with US data. And I'm going to just start a new report and show you that I can do that with my universe data. So I'm going to create a new web intelligence report. Click. I'll bring in my customer state, product group, and for my measures, revenue and number of order. And then I'm going to add a variable because I need that state abbreviation, and this particular data doesn't have that. So I have that on a variable that I created in here. So this is just going to be my state abbreviation. And I'll add that in here. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this into one of the need for viz charts. Geomaps, and I'll use that map line state, and I'm going to use product group for my mini chart and my number of orders. And then it says to complete the representation, we'll make some changes on the format options here. So I'll go to format custom element and choose extended parameters. And I'm going to choose the USA states map. And I'll click on apply. That's my first initial view. But I'm going to go back to my options there and turn on the mini chart, mini pop-up chart. And yeah, I think I'll go with that. We can do other changes in here. Map. It uses the out-of-the-box Webby palette, but they have some additional palettes that we can use in here as well. So you could explore some of those as well. I'll say okay. And then I can resize this a little bit. And now when I go into the full screen mode, I can look at my states here and view my product groups designation here. There's Kansas, here's Indiana, open on top of it, and I can compare. And then I might decide, I think I want to look at this in bars rather than pie charts. So I can edit that real quick and change the mini bars to, or the mini chart to bars. Okay, just that quick. And now when I click, we have the data in bars. Okay. Love that. So many things that we can do in here. One other chart. I know I'm out of time. This is a dashboard from our Webby dashboard course, and we added a new tab on here to show this is also a need for Viz chart. And this is using the Google map and being able to show distances. So in this case, we can say, all right, ambulance 3 is here. And if I wanted to send that ambulance to Dubai International Hospital, all of this happens to be in the Middle East, in Dubai. I could see how far away that is, or I could say, this hospital is just down the street, let's go with that. And I could give instructions to the driver to use that. And then I could switch to ambulance 2 and say, look at the busyness of another hospital and say, well, it looks like it would be closest for you to go to, even though the distances might be similar, this particular hospital is less busy, so take your patient to this particular hospital. So lots that we can do with that with Google Maps, combining Google Maps with the great functionality that is available with the need for this as well.